Mr. Sатlas, Dimitar, it's a pleasure to have you here on stage. And as you know, we are in the last panel before lunch, so we need to be very focused and productive in order to keep the attention of the crowd. I would like to go straight into the introduction, but before that I'll say a couple of words about myself. My name is Никола Газдов. I'm chairman of АПСТЕ, the Bulgarian Association for Production, Storage and Trading of Electricity, and also a board member at SolarPower Europe, which is the European Industry Association of the photovoltaic industry. In addition to that, also a board member of the Romanian PV Association. So I'm really happy to also have you both with a regional perspective. And I would like to start with Mr. Sатlas, our Greek guest, who is representing the Interconnector Greece, Bulgaria. Mr. Satlas, can you say a couple of words about yourself and what you do? What is ICGB? And let's frame the discussion starting from here.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the honor of being here and presenting myself and my company to this audience. What can I say for myself? I'm a mechanical engineer with some studies in the business administration. I've been working for a couple of years for a lot of Greek banks. I was managing assets for the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Greece. And now I'm from 2022, I joined ICGB. 2022 is let's say, significant year for ICGB because it became a reality. It was the beginning of the commercial operation of the company. Of course, as you said, because we need to be concise and effective, it's better to show you a picture of what is ICGB and have it on the map for you to have the idea on how we operate and what is the importance. So, Interconnector Greece, Bulgaria is a natural gas pipeline that connects Greece to Bulgaria. We at ICGB were the company who managed this pipeline, and we're 50% will belong to the Bulgarian state and 50% to a Greek company that it's half of it is the Greek state, half of it is the Italian edition. What we do, we manage this pipeline. It was a very significant project for the energy security in the Balkans, in Bulgaria, but also in Greece. You can see from for this map, we're just in the middle of what's going on. We're connecting the TAP with the Bulgarian transportation system.
Just to clarify, TAP is the Trans-Adriatic pipeline.
Yes, it's a pipeline that connects through TANAP, which is the Trans-Anatolian pipeline. It starts from Azerbaijan and moves gas towards Europe. It starts from Azerbaijan, transports Turkey, then Greece, then Albania, and then Italy. So, why ICGB is important? Because by constructing ICGB, which was a very difficult project because we have to have a fruitful cooperation between Greece and Bulgaria and comply with the regulations. I can tell you that we're regulated both by the Bulgarian regulator for energy and also for the Greek regulator for energy and utilities. So we managed to construct IGB, and what it does, it transfers gas from south to the north. So it connects Greece to Bulgaria. And the other question might be, how much gas do we transfer? Currently, we're transferring 3 billion cubic meters of natural gas, but we have the option to expand this to 5 billion cubic meters. And for you to have an idea of what does this mean, I can tell you that 5 billion cubic meters is almost double what Bulgaria's consumption in natural gas. And that would mean for all of you that you will be able to have natural gas in your houses. The industries can be using natural gas instead of other fossil fuels. And this is a big step towards energy security for the country, but also for the region. And we will expand to this, explaining how this, and you can see the maps that ICGB is part of the vertical gas corridor that connects the TAP in Greece to Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Ukraine, even Moldova. So this enhances energy security for the Balkans.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. I think we'll come back to that point, but first let's also invite Mr. Bartov to say a couple of words about himself and what you do, Mr. Bartov. You're an energy trader. What does an energy trader do?
So, hello, my name is Dimitar Bартов and I'm the general manager of Synergon Energy. As a trading company, we're among the biggest trading companies and suppliers and balancing group coordinators in Bulgaria. We tend to make wholesale deals with almost all countries in the region. So actually we are active in the southeastern European region. And frankly speaking, our main role is to coordinate, to balance, and to meet the demand and the supply within Bulgaria. We have a renewable energy portfolio that we manage, which is about 1,000 megawatts big, or soon it's going to be, which in terms of volume is, let's say, as big as one of the nuclear reactors which Bulgaria has. So our task is very complicated. We are trying to do our best to help the national grid operator to keep the system balanced and do it at a fair price, which, as we are going to speak about later on, is a very difficult task, and we are trying to come up with a relatively fair solution which would take care of the interests of all the parties involved in an energy system as complex as our becomes, because we are among, as a country, we are among the leaders in Europe in terms of our path to carbon neutrality, and our percentage of renewable energy sources is growing on a monthly basis. So we're doing very well. However, this becomes a very big problem for balancing the national grid. And our national company, the system operator, has difficulties, and that's why we need to figure out a solution that would manage to help us continue developing this through this transition to carbon neutrality and to 100% sustainable and reliable energy production and consumption.
Okay, very interesting. I think you sketched or indicated several topics that we need to come back to. I would ask actually the colleagues to bring back the slide of Mr. Satlas, because I think it's very informative and it will help us guide the discussion. So if we can have it back, yes, thank you very much. So George, you mentioned energy security. Historically, what we see here, you know, all the countries in Southeast Europe, they have been getting most, if not all of their gas, in Bulgaria's case it was actually all of it, from Russia. So pipeline infrastructure that goes east to west mostly. And now we see that there is an alternative route from the Caspian Sea towards Italy. So we have now the Greece-Bulgaria connection. Is this, you know, a new paradigm, pipelines or energy infrastructure in general going south to north? Is this something that is indeed going to help energy security? And if so, how would that happen? What would be the benefit apart from, you know, this additional diversification, which in theory and of course in practice should be bringing better terms commercially?
Yes, you are very right on what you mentioned. We have all experienced this 2022 anomaly in the energy prices because of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And in reality, what happens is that these infrastructures, they help, let's say, reduce the risk of high energy prices. IGB is important because it's a connecting link. We used to call it the energy changer, so the game changer actually. It's a connecting link between this top pipeline that goes from east to west, but also, and this is a new addition to what we're doing, there will be another connection that will use the new infrastructure, the FSRU Alexandroupolis, which is an LNG terminal. So this will further enhance the security of what we offer to the people and to the states of Europe, because by using LNG, we can import new quantities of natural gas. And the advantage of LNG is that it has no home, I can say. So it's a mean that you can get it from whoever provider has better pricing. So all these, together with an association that we call the Vertical Gas Corridor, it's very important. And we have a cooperation of 7 countries in this vertical gas corridor to enable to do some infrastructure projects and enable the transfer of gas to where it's needed. For us, for ICGB, the plan is to increase the capacity, as I mentioned, from 3 to 5 billion cubic meters, but also the other TSOs, they're doing their work to enhance this capacity. So at the end, we aim that this vertical corridor will be able to transfer 10 billion cubic meters. And right now, we're running the binding phase of the incremental capacity upgrade, and we expect to see interest. What we should mention about the energy scene is that recently we have seen that gas prices are falling. So this spike that happened in 2022 was kind of an exception. And with lower gas prices, what we witness is that we see more uses of natural gas in more industries, in tourism, okay, in households, we do know. So that is beneficial for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's very interesting because, and I think this is a natural transition then to Dimitar. Natural gas has, as you mentioned, many use cases. In Central Europe, households use it a lot. Not that much in Bulgaria, not yet at least. Industry, surely, big user, but also for generation of electricity. Greece has significant capacities of gas-fired power plants. Romania does, Germany, Netherlands, Hungary as well. So the question is, Dimitar, is that something that you see might be coming to Bulgaria as well, in order for, as George mentioned, as a reaction to these decreased prices, maybe that creates an incentive for investment in generation capacities? And is it needed? Is it actually something that you as a trader might see being beneficial both for the ESO, the National Transmission System Operator, but maybe also for supporting renewables generators?
Absolutely, and it's a matter of security, because in the last few years we saw that conflicts can arise in different places of the world. And currently we saw the war in Ukraine, what transformation happened to the energy markets and what fear led to, which was unheard of levels of inflation because of energy prices. Currently there is absolutely no guarantee that a conflict in the Middle East wouldn't happen, and this would again inflate extremely much the prices of natural gas and thereafter the prices of energy. So being able to diversify and being able to get the gas you need from a few sources gives you security in terms of being able to continue to operate. So,
and in terms of the power sector, do you see it as something that, for example, might compete with other technologies for balancing purposes? Just to explain, electricity is probably the only good that you cannot really store or not yet store economically for longer periods of time. We have pumped hydro storage facilities. Bulgaria is one of the leading countries in the region, actually, and also one of the pioneers in Europe. But now with electrochemical storage, maybe that might be changing. And until we are there, you need to balance consumption and production basically at the same moment in time. This is what the transmission system operators in the different countries do, and this is what also energy traders help them do by, matching demand and supply. But would natural gas be flexible enough, compared to what battery storage can do? And do you think this is something that might create incentives for investment in generation?
It is, and it will, because just to explain to the audience, the balancing market is a market where predictions are made for the production of the renewable energy source producers. And not always those predictions are right, because the weather is changing very fast. So when you need to produce energy very quickly because the weather changed and your predictions are wrong, then you need what is called a flexible power plant, meaning that, which exactly the gas power plants are, you could start producing electricity within 15 minutes. So you could help balance the system. So the more renewables come within the energy system of each country, the more flexible power plants we are going to need. And the flexible power plants are the hydropower plants, but water is a limited good. So we should all think about investing in gas power plants, because the greener we go, the more gas we are going to need to keep the lights on.
But also, sorry to interrupt, I think that here we have two different points that we need to take into account. And first one is, of course, the commercial viability. You know, would it be quicker and you know, more viable to invest in a gas power plant compared to storage, bearing in mind that, you know, you need to utilize this capacity, be it battery or battery storage capacity, be it a new gas power plant for a period of time in order to return your investment. And this, I would say, is an open topic. Perhaps we don't have time to focus on that. But then the second one is regulatory predictability. So if you invest in an asset, whatever it is, even if it's a, you know, the Greece-Bulgaria pipeline, you mentioned, George, you need predictability. You need regulatory clarity. From the Greek, from the Bulgarian side. Dimitar, do we have this regulatory predictability in terms of the electricity market space?
Frankly speaking, not. So, as an answer to your first question, battery storage is something that is also extremely important in order to help balance the system, but it's in neither way enough to do it. So, having flexible power producing plants is extremely important, and it's inevitable for every system in order to survive. On the other hand, making an investment in such a gas power plant is a huge financial obligation, having in mind that it's an investment that's going to last for tens of years. And the rapid development of the energy systems of the countries throughout Europe lead to certain regulations which are made on a European level that not always correspond to the regulations on the domestic level. Meaning that sometimes extremities could happen within a single country that is just blindly following the European regulation. So each country should be extremely careful in making any changes in the regulation which is working currently, because first, we are connected. All countries, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania, we're connected markets. So making a change in regulation in one country affects also the system of the neighborhood countries. And we should very carefully estimate the effect of any change. And in my belief, there was a regulatory change not a month ago that would severely affect all the green energy producers within the country. And
can you explain in a couple of words what it is about? Because I guess that's a complex topic and not everybody is aware. I think you're speaking about a certain methodology of how the balancing costs are being distributed.
So there was a change of the methodology in which the price of the balancing energy is determined. And having in mind that the only suppliers at the moment are the national-owned National Electric Company and the Maritsa Istok 2 power plant, they're the only suppliers of the energy. So the price of the energy they supply to the market increased between 2 and 7 or 8 times, which is not at all expected from everybody who is paying the balancing costs. And now we're in a very hard situation explaining to everybody what's going to happen. And we believe that such changes should be made with very careful analysis of what could happen if you release a market and you change the way the prices are made in a market which is actually a monopoly.
Okay, so if I understand you correctly, we need more clarity, and you don't argue against liberalization, but actually mean we need more transparency in the system, correct?
Exactly, because prices are, after all, paid by everybody who uses energy, which is everybody.
Absolutely.
So we are looking towards an increase in inflation if the regulations aren't very carefully prepared.
So basically we need a balance between regulation and market liberalization.
Yes, and the national grid operator says that this is also an extremely powerful signal for flexible power producing plants, meaning that now, as far as they're concerned, the business within our country and the neighboring countries should start really investing in storage facilities and in gas power plants in order to help balance the system. But in the meantime, because it takes a lot of time if you start from day one to finish a project in energy, in the meantime, the rest producers will have to suffer financially.
So, George, that sounds like a little bit of a mixed story, but perhaps still good for the use case of ICGB. I mean, ultimately, I guess also this project is an example of the interplay between regulations and the rigidity of of regulations in the different countries that you need to comply with, but also in terms of market liberalization that creates opportunities for where the product goes. And again, I'm looking at the map. I see the pointers going left and right. So when we look at Moldova and Ukraine, do you see them as potential beneficiaries of the further expansion of the project? Is this something that might indeed lead to increased consumption and ultimately increased utilization of the pipeline if gas would then flow to these countries from south to north?
Yes, for sure. And to our surprise, what we have seen even in the first semester of operation, we have seen Moldova transferring gas quantities through IGB to power up their electricity system. Because, as we all know, they were heavily dependent in Russia, but this came to an end. So what will happen is that all this gas that will go on the north, it can be used both by Moldova, but also in Ukraine to fill up the storage capacities that Ukraine has. Storage is very important for energy. Bulgaria is very happy to have this Synergon capacity for storing natural gas. And as my co-panelist here mentioned, gas is very important because gas is, apart from being the primary, one of the primary sources for energy generation, it's also an enabler for the transition. We can have nuclear plants for generating electricity, we can have coal plants, we can have gas-enabled plants. The latter is more flexible, it can fire up very quickly, like the hydro, and it should be used in that direction. this also helps the decarbonization of the country. So we all know that Bulgaria is dependent on coal. Gas, first of all, is you can save up to 60% of emissions coming from coal by replacing it with gas. Also, when it comes to crude oil, for example, gas in thermal power is 5 times stronger than 5 times cheaper than crude oil. So all this can help Bulgaria on the way towards renewable energy. Why? Because as Greece has done it, we can see from the numbers from the European Union that Bulgaria, maybe in, let's say, absolute numbers, is in the low spectrum of using renewables, but the change is rapidly. So we can see on the slope, both Greece and Bulgaria are going like this in using renewables. And that is actually what we all want. But we cannot rely solely on renewables. And last but not least is that when you invest in infrastructure, it's a very difficult investment because you invest, you spend a lot of money, you don't know when it's going to need it. So this ICGB project was a discussion for years. It started from 2013 when the first invasion of Russia happened, but it became a reality in 2022. The thing is that you should invest in infrastructure, first of all, because also let's say the gas of the future is hydrogen, but again, it needs pipes. So you should invest, and hopefully you will need it in the near future.
Very interesting topic, hydrogen. Hydrogen, as we have been hearing lately, is a very promising substitute for natural gas, or at least partial, of course, because we would need massive quantities that are hardly going to be producible without using natural gas in the process. So one of the few options is, of course, using a lot of renewable power to produce renewable hydrogen, maybe also nuclear power. Then it's still, I think, an open discussion how that hydrogen is going to be treated, but clearly it's going to be a low-carbon hydrogen produced by electrolysis with nuclear produced electricity. But then the question is, of course, you need additional pipelines perhaps, or new pipelines, new generation of pipelines. Perhaps the ones you have are covering that, maybe you can tell us. But in addition to that, we need a lot of new renewable sources in order to produce this electricity, and perhaps in situations, Dimitar, when it's in excess, to use it to power electrolyzers and then produce renewable hydrogen. But again, is it something to both of you that is possible given the current infrastructure, or would we need additional investments in both gas pipelines and Dimitar also in high voltage transmission lines?
Yes, to be honest, additional investment will be needed. However, most of the newly constructed pipelines are called hydrogen ready. Mm-hmm. We are also checking our infrastructure to enable the transmission of hydrogen as a percentage of the total transmission. We are not still there. However, what also needs to be done is for the industries to start transforming, to be able to use this hydrogen. Because if there is no demand, we're talking about an empty seat.
Yes, absolutely. Dimitar, do you think that, again, looking at the region, we see Greece having massive new deployments of solar generation systems, some additional new capacity. We see Bulgaria installing probably close to 3,000 additional megawatts of solar, also ongoing now this year included, coming close to totally perhaps around 4,000 megawatts. Greece already has seven-ish. Romania also expanding now perhaps around 3 gigawatts as well. The regional market is not all that big. Is it liquid enough to take all this electricity, given the fact that we also have other inflexible sources that are a must-run, like the nuclear power plant? And what is actually the solution? Is it indeed green hydrogen, but this is going to take time as well? Is it storage to take this excess capacity? Is it perhaps new power lines connecting Greece, Bulgaria, Romania to Central Europe, or is it all of the above?
Frankly speaking, power lines should be connected there where consumption is. And currently I believe that the whole of Europe is suffering from a decline in terms of industrial production. So I don't think connectivity is the biggest problem. The biggest problem is trying to actually manage the excess power and investing in, as you said, storage and flexible power plants. Meaning that at every point, if you have excess energy, you should be able to store it. And if you don't have enough energy, you should be able to use from the storage and the additional, because storage cannot be in such volume added to the grid, so it is enough for long periods of time to keep the lights on. So investment in gas power plants is an absolute must. But there is also another thing. We should, as I said earlier, very carefully communicate between the countries in the region, because in terms of the transition towards a carbon neutral energy system, we all started making the same steps in terms of photovoltaic power plants, meaning that there is a lot of solar in Greece, a lot of solar in Bulgaria, and a lot of solar in Romania. And at some point, there is nowhere to be stored or shipped. So the fastest way to solve this problem is through storage. But it will still take a few years. And in the meantime, we should start thinking how to balance the system, but balance it at a fair price, not making prices of the balancing energy excessive, so that the business is so much driven to invest in storage that it happens sooner. Because we see that after the war in Ukraine, prices of energy skyrocketed, which immediately reflected in huge investments in solar, because the numbers were looking good. Now we're facing another problem, and doing absolutely the same thing of making a huge possibility and making it look attractive could very easily be changed with a new regulation, and the sustainability of developing your energy network through making such signals is not at all reliable. I mean, in the energy, as it was already said, a project takes 10 years to come to a successful end. You cannot
invest without clarity how you're going to get
Absolutely.
payback.
You cannot try to evolve the system by sending mixed financial signals to the investors, because as we see, you're going to fight bigger and bigger problems.
So, George, may I ask you to make a short summary of what you think are the benefits from ICGB for regional security and for the diversification of gas supplies? Because I think we should be wrapping up the panel and moving to lunch.
Of course, because lunch break is approaching, I will make it very short. What is the key message here is that together we can succeed. We cooperated Greece, Bulgaria in a common project. It became a reality. We offer energy security. But on top, we need to understand this complement and how all these sources, they can work together to bring us a brighter future. So this link is very important.
Great, thank you. Dimitar?
Absolutely. The future and the security of the region is in our hands, but through cooperation and through communication. In other words, we are lost. So
also on myself, on my behalf, let's say to wrap up a little bit, I think that it's been a very interesting discussion. For me, I learned that diversification and new infrastructure enhances regional security, and that, of course, regulatory predictability is key in order to make sure these investments continue happening, because nobody is going to put their money in any project if it's not clear how this project is going to return the investment, and if the regulatory environment is unpredictable, if regulations change from one day to the other without a clear explanation why, then this, of course, discourages new investment. We see that a lot has changed in the last couple of years. Gas used to come to our region mostly from one source. Now it's coming through different sources, the Caspian Sea, LNG from other regions of the world. So this creates more opportunity, and in a liberalizing market space, this perhaps creates a lot of new demand. So entrepreneurs are watching, be it for balancing, be it for industrial use. We might expect investments in new generation perhaps, or in other technologies such as storage to dampen this oversupply. And yes, renewables have been very affordable, very cheap. Greece, Bulgaria, Romania have attracted a lot of investments on purely market terms for new solar and wind projects, but ultimately, in order not to become a victim of their own success, they need to be hand in hand with other technologies. And I think that's more or less what we can summarize the whole discussion with.